it's Barbie with Bellspalsy Talk Live. I haven't seen you guys all in a while. I hope you're all doing well. I'm really excited to be talking today to Liz. She's fairly new here to the club. And here she is. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, Barbie. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So, I'm really excited to be talking to you. We kind of connected on Instagram, and I've been following your story for a while now. So you're how long in? About 6 weeks?
I'm 9 weeks.
9 weeks now. Yeah, so just wanted to hear about your story and hear how you're doing. I've been watching your updates on Instagram, so you're trying to stay positive and put a fun spin on things. So why don't you let us know about that wonderful morning when you woke up?
Yeah, so I had a trail race, and that I've been training for a long time. It was the longest race that I've ever done. So there was a little bit of stress, mentally, but physically, and I did great. And then that night I ate sushi, and it tasted super bland, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And then my tongue felt like kind of like when you eat pineapple.
Right, like tingly-ish kind of, or
But I didn't think any of it. And
sure.
then the morning when I brushed my teeth and I tried to spit out, wait, like something's weird.
Yeah.
But I could still move like a little bit my face. So I didn't think much about it. I was like, oh, it'll pass. And then it just started getting worse and worse. And I was really far away from home. So between when it started happening to when I got to the doctor, it was a little bit over 24 hours. And then I got to the doctor and he was like, oh yeah, you have Bell's palsy. Just take these antivirals and just let's check in 2 weeks and see what happens. I was like, what do I do with my eye?
Yeah, I have so many questions. Yeah.
So they gave me a roll of tape. Like they just handed it to me. They didn't tape my eye or anything. I was like, oh, okay. So I went home and I Googled like how to tape my eye or like what to do. Because doctors don't really tell you.
Yeah, they don't really know like a lot. Now, where do you live again? Remind me.
I live in Salt Lake.
Okay. So yeah, so not a lot of resources or clinics and such out there, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, and I looked for a PT here. I called every single place, like hundreds of places, and nobody does Bell's palsy. And then I found this one girl, and she's like, yeah, I'm actually the only girl in the valley that does Bell's palsy.
Okay. Well, so you're seeing her, or?
Yeah, but I still don't notice like any. I feel like nothing is really helping right now. Like, I don't know, maybe at some point I'll start noticing.
Yeah, they say I think 9 weeks is still fairly early. I mean, it doesn't feel like it. I know for you it feels like a lifetime, but your body's still recuperating from a major like assault basically, and your nerves regenerate only at like a millimeter or half a millimeter, like a week or something like that. And when I first learned that, and I mean it was last year, it's been about 7 years for me. I was like, what? So we're sitting here, and of course yourself as an athlete, you're okay, just a little bit more. Like, if I push a little bit more, then I'll get there quicker, right? I'll get there to the goal quicker. And the problem is with this, that we have all come together and we have this common experience, is that it teaches us patience, because it's really out of our control. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that you're facing right now. Does that resonate with you? Like, are you feeling like patience was something that maybe you needed to learn? Or
I think my mom came here to help me. And every day she's like, okay, like, how's your face feeling? Every morning, like, okay, like, can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, so that disappointment and that like pressure was making me feel even worse, like really sick. Because she's like, okay, like every morning, how are you feeling? And then it was like I was supposed to feel sad or like ill.
Right.
And I was like really sad. I would look in the mirror and I would just cry, and I was like, oh, why me? Like, I'm such a healthy person. Like, you know. And one day I was like, I had this like realization, because as an athlete, I'm always like trying to look for hard things to do and
Yeah.
over them.
Mm.
Like, what's the highest mountain I can climb? What's the
Right.
hardest high? And then I saw this as that, like, okay, this is this obstacle, and I can also overcome this. And like, as soon as I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I felt like empowered, and I felt like motivated, like, okay, this is really hard, but like I can do this.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, and do you have any advice for people who are trying to wrap their brains around that? I mean, people ask me all the time, like, how did you do it? I don't know. I didn't have any, it was just, I feel like you're the same. It's just a conscious decision to be like, I'm not a person who's going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to stand up. And that doesn't mean that you can't cry in the mirror in the morning when you're like, stand up and you'll be like, I'm not going to be a victim. Sometimes, some days are harder than others.
Yeah.
But do you feel that way? Do you feel like you just had to be like,
yeah,
I can't do this anymore, right?
I think something that helps me a lot is like fake it till you make it. So
Yeah.
like I know there's a feeling there, but I fake it. I'm like, oh no, I'm happy, I'm positive, like this is gonna be fine. And then weeks have passed, and like I forgot I was supposed to feel sad.
Right. Well, and the thing is, that's interesting, that you're that we feel like we're supposed to feel sad.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, why is it that we then feel guilty for not feeling sad? Like, that's crazy. It's almost like you're learning this lesson, you're putting it in this amazing perspective of being like, this is essentially the highest mountain that you can climb. The lessons are so big for you. You're going to come out of this a completely, not a changed person, but a more empowered version of yourself. Yet we're just conditioned to feel like, oh, I should feel sad. That's very interesting. I think as I know men as well, but I think as women, we are so conditioned to be like, oh, I should feel this, I should be this, I should do this. And it's exhausting. I mean, Bell's palsy or not. We just, if you feel a certain way that day, that's okay. You can feel that way. Happy, sad, mad, angry. For me, when I got Bell's palsy, I was, in a life, I had 2 young kids who, of course, I love dearly. And as a mother, we do everything for our kids, and that's fine. But I also, for everybody else in my life, was doing all the things, throwing the parties, having the house, having the last minute being like, oh, well, those people are counting on me, so I should go, or I should do it, even though I didn't want to. So for me, it was just that push for some reason to be something that I knew I could be. I felt superficially that I wanted to be, but it was just too much, obviously, for my body. So I always love talking to people to kind of find out what was going on in their lives at the time, because I feel like we all have such similar stories,
Yeah, I was doing this race. It was like a series of like a half marathon, 33K and 55K. And I was just pushing myself too hard, but I didn't think that I was stressed or anything. So it was caught me by surprise for sure, like all of us.
And then do you feel like it wasn't pushing yourself too hard because you were doing something healthy? Like, I think that, like, sometimes too, we think, oh, I'm pushing myself too hard if I'm working too hard, or not taking care of my health, or drinking too much, or eating too much, or whatever. Whereas for you, this message is coming, or this happening, you're pushing yourself for a healthy reason. And that also was too much. I don't know if that makes sense. It's interesting to me. I feel that way, if I get injured or something happens at the gym, I'm like, oh, crying out loud, like, I'm just trying to be healthy here, but there's still that lesson that you're pushing too hard, even though it's something healthy, And for yourself, you obviously have channeled your energy into doing positive, active things, but at a certain point, our body is just like, okay, sorry, like, enough, I need some rest here. So I'm glad that you're taking that time for yourself. I mean, I know you're still in the gym and you're doing still things like your hobbies. And how did you get into that? How did you get into Olympic weightlifting? I used to do CrossFit, so I used to
Oh,
weightlift quite a bit, but how did you get into that?
yeah, I used to do CrossFit. Um, well, I wanted to climb mountains and I wasn't fit at all. So I was like, okay, like how do I get fit? And I heard about CrossFit. So I started doing CrossFit and then I just fell in love with the
Mhm.
Olympic aspect of it. So I started lifting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very empowering, isn't it, to become strong like that? And did you just woke up one morning and just decided that you wanted to climb mountains, or has it been since you've been a
Yeah.
kid? Or
I saw like a movie of someone climbing Everest and I was like, what?
I'm gonna do that. Good for
Um,
you. So you're working on that, obviously, then still to do Everest.
no, that trip has sailed for me. I in two of my last expeditions, I had pulmonary and cerebral edema. I
Okay.
had rescued two different times, and then I was like, okay, like what am I doing? I'm playing.
Yeah.
With, um. So yeah, I took a step back on that.
Yeah, but still training. I mean, just because Everest is the biggest mountain doesn't mean that there's not mountains that you've climbed. You
Yeah.
know, and that's the thing. It seems from your personality, it's like just because it's not the biggest one doesn't mean it's not an amazingly huge accomplishment. You know, I'm like that too. So, you know, this is a reminder for me, this conversation too. I love that. Every talk that I have here on Bellspalsy Talk, I have something that I'm in common with the other person. And it always makes me feel empowered to go forward in some way. And this conversation for me is reminding me that just because, you know, I'm a motivational speaker and my, you know, company closed in COVID, just because I'm not speaking to thousands of people doesn't mean that one isn't just as important, or we have 6 people on our talk right now. You know, it doesn't need to be Everest to say that it's a mountain and that you've accomplished it. So I think that we need to go easier on ourselves and look at the accomplishments that we've had, you know,
Yeah.
not always focusing on the ones that we haven't done yet, or, you know,
And
so
like I said earlier or yesterday in the post, like at first I was super lost. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to take? Like, what are people doing? And like, so dealing with this, because like they tell you 3 to 6 months, you may or may not heal, or you know, there's a lot of unknowns.
mhm.
So I just went on Instagram and I found you, and like, yeah, just hearing every single person just like their experiences is just helped me a lot to
Well, I
deal.
feel like it's just so nice to feel like we're not alone. And that's my goal. You know, I've spent, well, I'm getting emotional, but I've spent a lot of my life surrounded by zillions of people, but always like feeling like I just had that underlying feeling of feeling alone. And so I just love bringing people together. And that's, you know, what I love. Like you're saying, your post yesterday really was nice for my heart, because that's what we're here to do. There's no big goal. There's no big mountain that we're going to climb together. It's just about us all coming together to support each other in whatever our individual goals and dreams are, you know. So for some people it's climbing a mountain, for some people it's getting out of bed in the morning. Like that's okay, you know. Getting out of bed in the morning for that person could be, you know, a mountain or a big accomplishment. So I just really enjoy that we can come together, and I've met some amazing people like yourself. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And we all have so much in common, and we're going to do big things. So you're 9 weeks in, and I'll definitely be following your story, and I want to have you on in a couple months again and let us know how you're doing, and make sure
Yeah.
you keep that positive attitude as much as you can, you know, because I do believe in the fake it till you make it as well, as long as you're still honoring the feelings underneath at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I bottle my feelings too much, and then there's this day when it's
Yeah.
just floats.
So
Um,
sometimes I think outwardly it's okay to fake it till we make it, but also learn on the inside to be like, okay, today this is what I'm feeling. We're going to sit with it and work through those feelings, because the longer that we push them down, the more health issues that they are
there's
gonna
a balance that needs to be done, because if um nourish your feelings too much, then it starts pulling you down.
yeah, yeah, good point. Yeah, there's that fine line. You're right. You want to acknowledge but not wallow. or
Mm-hmm.
wallow for a certain amount of time. I totally agree. Like you can't, you acknowledge and you say, I see you, and this feeling is important. But yes, you're right. If you sit and wallow too much, then you're just going to be sitting in the dark in the puddle for for the rest of your life. So I love your outlook. I think I'm definitely going to be following you and watching your journey, and so supportive, and you got this. You're going to be good. We're all going to be good. Thank you so much for coming on. You have a great rest of your weekend, and
Thank
we'll
you.
be in touch. Thanks, Liz.